What is the scariest, creepiest theory you know about? That my mother-in-law keeps accidentally leaving things at my house because she is slowly moving in. I had this girlfriend who was doing that, and I could tell she was doing it. It was kind of annoying she never asked, but I was kind of impressed at how well she played me like a fiddle. She's sitting next to me now, and we just put our kids to bed. Just brought my couch over because it's more comfortable than yours. Don't mind me, we've all pretty much heard of uncanny valley, the creeped out anxious feeling when you look at something that's humanoid, but there's something clearly wrong with it, like the wax figures at Madame Tussauds or that AI robot Sophia. But my favorite theory to come out of it is that we get that strange feeling because somewhere along human evolution, we've learned to be wary of things that look human, but aren't. The leading theory on why humans experience uncanny valley, but most other animals don't, is that we're programmed to avoid dead people. Animals typically don't give a f if something's dead. We, on the other hand, are naturally afraid of catching diseases from corpses. Mannequins, dolls, whatever. They ping in our subconscious as dead bodies. But to be honest, I secretly prefer the spooky theories about skinwalkers and aliens. An edit to clarify, a few animals are programmed to avoid or care about dead things. They're usually mammals, elephants, an assortment of apes, orcas. They share an understanding of death and seem to be conscious of it. Whether intelligent animals can feel the uncanny valley is pretty hard to verify, obviously. There aren't too many elephant mannequins around to test it. So, yeah, Kitty or Rover probably aren't aware of the uncanny valley in the same way. Humans seem unique in this sensation. In general, though, it's safe to assume that lizards, most insects, and your friendly neighborhood fish don't care if one of their own is dead. Someone else pointed out that Neanderthal and Homo sapiens lived simultaneously at one point, so it's possibly from that. The theory that the last moments of consciousness before death can feel like a literal eternity and where your mind can create entire realities from blissful to horrifying. So in a way, the threat of enduring a hellscape of eternal suffering is very real no matter what you believe. Edit. So dying is like dropping acid. Don't do it unless you're in a good headspace. Edit. Well, my inbox is never going to recover. This is my hell. If the human body senses trauma it is unable to combat, it will switch off metabolism, pump endorphins, and slip into a pain-free dissociative state. In essence, shutting down. It's been seen in air crashes and lots of places, really. Basically, your body can switch itself off. Don't some prey animals do this when they are caught? That's why they seem so unfazed about being eaten. I'm sure I've read something about rabbits not being likely to survive an encounter with a predator, even if they escape, because their body is just pumped with so much shit, they have a heart attack anyway. It was on Reddit somewhere I saw it, so who knows how legit it is. As someone that has pet rabbits, not stressing them out if they're not feeling well is a legitimate concern for exactly this reason. It's such a delicate line between deciding if the stress of an urgent care visit is worth it or more detrimental. A lot of comments bringing up the Fermi paradox to explain the lack of evidence of extraterrestrial life, when by all accounts we should be seeing alien life all over the universe. Here's another unsettling explanation. If you're scuba diving above a coral reef and you know that there should be fish all around you, but you don't see any, it's most likely that they have learned that for some reason it's important not to be seen. And since you're a newcomer to this environment, chances are it's not you they're hiding from. Edit. The number of scuba divers saying they've experienced this and then noticed a shark nearby is alarming. Fuck that and my ability to sleep tonight. Reminds me of a short story where humans are broadcasting a signal out into the universe to try and contact any advanced alien species they can to prove that there's other life in the universe. Years later, they receive a signal back from an unknown part of space that says something along the lines of, "Be quiet or they'll find you." Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Lots of people are suggesting that I read The Three-Body Problem. I love me a good sci-fi book and haven't listened to an audiobook in about a year, so I know what I'm getting next. Years ago, when I was seriously dating my now wife, almost every time we started to have sexy time, her mother would call up. Seemed strange, then disgusting when we found the hidden camera when moving her out. That's mega f***ed up. How did you find the hidden camera and did you confront her mother? It was hidden under a stuffed animal and aimed at the bed. That's super creepy. I'm sorry you had to deal with that. That all intelligent life kills itself. So the theory started out with the Fermi paradox. Basically, there are so many planets in this galaxy, let alone the entire universe, that it is statistically impossible that we're the only planet that developed intelligent life. So where is everybody? Well, the secondary theory is that every intelligent species reaches the point where they have a technology that can kill their entire species, and that the vast majority end up killing themselves at that point. Those who survive this time in their history are so rare that we haven't found them and they haven't found us. As a species, we reached that point in our history with the discovery of nuclear weapons, and we're at the height of risk during the Cold War. at least thus far in our collective history. But there are various technologies that could bring a species to this point in their history. This would mean that while so far we've survived, that it's statistically unlikely we will survive long term. What makes me agree most with this is that as technology advances, its destructive power increases faster than its protective power. Like you say, with nuclear weapons existing, no real defense against them does. As time goes on and the average person's personal technology increases, I imagine WMD to get more and more accessible until eventually the odds of zero lunatics getting hold of them will be relatively low. At this point, it just takes one nutcase to decide they want to end the world. Of course, there's tons of stuff like controlling access to stuff, which plays a big part too. But if this theory is good enough for you, then it's good enough for me. Our world is our perception of our surroundings in our three-dimensional life. It's possible that we are living amongst beings, things and events that we cannot experience because we are three dimensions and they are not. Edit. Thank you everyone for continuing the conversation and adding your thoughts. I must say, this is the most upvoted and awarded thing I've ever put out on Reddit. It means a lot to me to contribute to mindfucking my fellow Redditors and really get us thinking about weird shit that we typically may not. Think big, dream bigger. Oh, I remember this theory now. Our visible color range and audible hearing range are pretty narrow. Many animals communicate with what we consider to be ultrasound or infrasound. Some animals see colors we can't even comprehend. Remember that the next time you see a cat staring up at a corner before it runs away. The one that bugs me was the one about the guy who was last seen in an airport. There's video of him just wigging the fuck out and running away at full speed. They linked the surveillance footage and you can see him run all the way off the premises. He was never seen again. There's lots of theories about what happened. None I want to look too far into. Bulgaria wasn't it. Completely freaked out and ran through the front door into the woodlands. The first man in space, some Russian cosmonaut whose name I can't remember, was not the true first. The actual first was a cosmonaut whose mission was unsuccessful and he either died in orbit or on re-entry. Once it became apparent that he was doomed, the Russian authorities cut off communications, leaving him to die in isolation, and covered up the existence of the mission. Edit. Some corrections are called for. OP asked about theories, which I thought this was, but the facts are pretty well settled. First man in space was Yuri Gagarin. Sorry for not knowing that without Googling. Jeez. The story I described was of Komarov, and his fatal mission occurred after Gagarin's historic first. What was theoretical was the story of a group of cosmonauts who died predate Gagarin, who were abandoned upon mission failure, and whose distress calls were heard and recorded by amateur radio. I had a vague recollection of this theory and was confusing it with Komarov's story. This theory has been widely debunked. Well, that's fucking horrifying, but not unprecedented. Komarov was selected to command the Soyuz 1 in 1967, with Yuri Gagarin as his backup cosmonaut. The cosmonauts knew that the spacecraft had major safety problems, but Komarov stated that if he were to refuse to fly, Gagarin would be forced to go instead. Komarov chose to fly to protect Gagarin and insisted before the flight that his funeral be open casket, so that the Soviet leadership could see what they had done. Don't Google the photos unless you have eye bleach on hand. That you might be aware of everything happening to you during surgery. The anesthesia keeps you from moving and causes you to forget. Yeah, before my wisdom teeth removal, the nurse told me that patients can still partially respond to the commands of the doctor while under anesthesia. They just don't remember this afterward. When I went under, I didn't even remember falling asleep. I had surgery once and woke up mid-surgery. I felt no pain, but it was still awful. It was like running in a dream. I felt like every movement was through molasses, and the weight of my own skin on my chest made it hard to breathe enough to talk. I remember screaming "help" at the top of my lungs and flailed my arms around in panic, and then someone coming to put the mask back on me. Later, a nurse told me I whispered something and moved my arm a little. Freaked me out massively. Edit. Beware, continuing this comment thread only leads to more creepy surgery stories. You've been warned. Cosmology can be disturbing. For instance, I recently learned of dead-end trips. There are some destinations that you shouldn't try for. It's possible to travel so far away from where you started that the expansion of the universe will exceed the speed you were traveling at. You can't return home because home is receding faster than you can travel. You can't reach your destination because it too is receding faster than you can travel. You can no longer get anywhere, only get further away from everything. You cannot reach any destination, even if you travel forever. Yes, this is because the universe is constantly expanding, and galaxies, neighborhoods, clusters, etc. are gravity-bound. They stick together in distant clumps while other clumps move away. It's kind of like people in cars on a highway. You will remain a constant difference from however many people are in your car, or on your motorcycle, or in your school bus. But you will get further and further away from other vehicles. This means that if you are within a pocket that's bound by gravity, you'll always be an equal distance from everything else. But if you fall out of that car, you're not getting back in it, and you're almost certainly never getting into any other car either. We could be a brain in someone's basement, just imagining our whole life and everyone we meet. Edit. I made this as a joke. I didn't know it had so many layers to it. You would have already known that if you looked at my name. I think I'm a normal dude browsing Reddit on my bed. But it's possible that in reality, I'm in a mental hospital banging my head against the wall. The universe could be dying, and we'd have no way to know until we just suddenly vanish from existence. There could be a sort of quantum energy wave. Can't remember what it's called because it's been so long since I read about it. 0-point collapse, maybe? Vacuum bubble burst? But whatever it is, it's an energy wave that starts at some point and spreads outward at the speed of light, annihilating any matter, energy, and even space-time in its path. Because the wave travels at the speed of light, it is invisible. We would have no way of seeing it coming. Because any light emitted by it would hit us at the exact same time that the wave itself hits us. So, all of a sudden, the sun might just vanish from existence. We wouldn't notice because the sun's light from 8 minutes ago would still be reaching us. 8 minutes later, the Earth just vanishes from existence. No warning, no trace. I like that this thread is filled with nightmarish death, alien, apocalypse, universe-ending scenarios. But the top post is about someone's mother-in-law coming to live with them. The butterfly effect. It makes me feel like deciding whether to choose black shirts or white shirts would increase or decrease my chances of dying young. Edit. I wore a blue undershirt. I wonder what will happen. Edit 2. To all the people saying that I am Chidi Anagonyi, you all made my day. It's really creepy when you reverse path your life decisions to date. I have 2 kids I love deeply, but they wouldn't exist if I hadn't made one relatively minor decision 15 years ago. More of a story than a theory, but it correlates to some of these and makes me think some could be real. When I was younger, I had this little stuffed animal dog I named Rocky. One night, my younger sisters and I, who all slept in the same room so we could hang out together, were messing around, and I too handed over head-tossed Rocky into the wall directly in front of my bed. He hit the wall, slid down behind whatever was in front of my bed, and was never seen again. I immediately went to go get him, and he just wasn't anywhere. We tore the whole entire small room apart. We all saw the event occur. Over time, the room has been completely emptied out. Everything in it rearranged, walls painted, everything, and no Rocky. He just completely phased out of existence. Makes me think he glitched out of the system or something. There's always that lingering doubt, isn't there? Still, from watching my own kids, most likely explication is that a bunch of kids just couldn't find it. You never say how old you are, but my young children have trouble finding things in the open sometimes. Then a parent found it, not realizing you lost it. They moved it, and it eventually got stored, thrown away, somewhere outside the room, because they weren't privy to what happened. But since we don't know and can't prove anything, we'll never be able to truly eliminate the possibility that it just snapped out of reality. We used to have these 2 paintings of clowns, for some reason, next to our bunk beds when my brother and I were much younger. One day we took them both down, put them facing the wall so we can sleep in peace. Come morning time, the clowns were back in the wall. We were so freaked out we never touched those paintings or talked about it again until like maybe 15 years later. We were discussing it with our mom, and she recalled she happened to put them up before we woke up. Choose the room decor wisely, parents. If you die by being beheaded, the last thing you might see is your decapitated body. Time for me to go to bed. Not a theory, but reality. Schizophrenia can happen to anyone at any age, even to perfectly healthy people. Imagine being normal and then waking up one day and seeing and hearing things that aren't actually there. That is really scary and creepy. I mean, technically that is true, but diagnosis is much more common in men from early teens to 20s, and for women 20s to 30s. Being diagnosed after 40 is not very common. Humans are scared of things that mimic them too perfectly. The theory is that we developed this because there was a super predator of some sort that would mimic us and kill us, but we never knew what happened to it. Well, that's unsettling. Don't the Native Americans have like tribes that believe in skinwalkers that did something like this? A lot of cultures do. They carry, obviously, and some have adapted more to changing times. But the root idea is the same. Personally, I just tell myself that it was when Neanderthals and Homo sapiens coexisted for 5,000 years, competing for animal products, ant products, water, and land. They were very similar to us, and we even carry Neanderthal DNA. They got defeated by dwindling numbers and eventually inbreeding. There was probably more than a little cross-species hunting. I should write this as a story, ETA. I have been recommended The Inheritors, which is about this, as well as Clan If the Cave Bear. Only the first Clan of the Cave Bear though, because it gets smutty afterwards. And House of Bones. We could start an evolution-themed book club. The ant products are a secret. Some people have had some strange NDEs, near-death experiences. Going through websites cataloging them can be a trip. I'm willing to attribute some of them to brain damage, and some as legit, though I'll never be able to tell which is which. Deathbed visions give me a warmer sense of security. I can't imagine how peaceful it must be to die and see your deceased loved ones there to ensure you make it safely to the other side. My dumb ass was like, non-disclosure agreements? During the Challenger accident from 1986, whenever the shuttle exploded, the ground crews had the astronauts' EKGs and vital scans. After the explosion, the astronauts were still alive. Theory has it that they were cognizant the entire time until they crashed in the ocean. This is what actually happened. NASA never wanted to admit that the astronauts didn't die in the explosion, but there is a major probability that they were not conscious when they crashed into the ocean. The guy in bottleneck theory. Basically, the reason we've never encountered or been contacted by aliens is because they're all dead. Every alien species that evolved to form advanced societies eventually outgrew their planet and destroyed themselves, like we are. The theory that we're all quantum immortals, and when someone dies in our reality for them, they just keep on going in a reality where they didn't. This is very true. The theory basically says that all the parallel forms of ourselves are basically one infinite lifetime playing simultaneously, and every time we survive a bare death experience, we actually continue in another lifetime. Fucking quantum bears. Colbert tried to warn us, but we didn't listen. That humans almost went extinct. 70,000 years ago, a volcano in Indonesia erupted. There's theories that we have a genetic bottleneck around that time. Took our population down to 10,000 to 3,000, like the size of one small town. Lots of fresh genetic material died with those who were lost, and the resulting inbreeding could have resulted in some genetic diseases that have made their way into humans today. Without this event, we may have advanced faster and be healthier people today. Edit 2, thank you for the awards. When I went to sleep, this had 5 upvotes, and now it's 10,000. I'm glad that so many people found this interesting. I'd like to clarify that this is a theory, a hypothesis supported by a collection of facts. The theory is not fact and truth in itself, so don't take it that way. I have gotten a lot of messages where people think that I'm spreading falsehoods about this, and I want to address that there is counter evidence against the volcano causing a genetic bottleneck. There is still evidence of the genetic bottleneck and the recent and abrupt diversification of humanity. Most of the research that I've seen on this comes from 2000. It's been 20 years, so there has been lots of work done on this very topic in the time since. The point is, don't take it as fact. The thread asked for scary theories, and I provided a scary theory, not fact. For more information and supporting evidence that human beings diversified recently, we can look at stories like Cheddar Man, a dark-skinned, blue-eyed man that lived around 10,000 years ago in England. I have also been getting a lot of questions about if we have genetically improved as a species from this. The short answer is, I don't know, and I don't think anyone does. I think it's unlikely, as I've never heard of a population bottleneck going well. Pain does not equal gain, and survival of the fittest hasn't really applied to people for a long time, and for a variety of reasons. We tend to protect others that are weak, because those that are different have still purpose and use to the community. We care about each other and want to see everyone succeed. This line of thinking, that we must have become stronger from such a critical state, seems far too close to eugenics. May or not be a theory, but the first thing I thought of was that feeling you get when you're on top of a building and think, what if I jumped? Or when you're driving and think, what if I just swerve into traffic? Well, it's actually got a name. L'appel du vide, French for the call of the void. I always thought the idea of some ethereal presence calling you towards darkness. Creepy. Edit. Thank you all for the love and awards. I prefer the call of the void, but thank you all for sharing the other names for this phenomenon. I hadn't heard them all. It's comforting to know that we've all had this feeling at some point, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're suicidal to you're homicidal. It's normal, just that pesky void at it again. Thank you for watching. Write comments, put likes. Do not forget to watch other videos.